What do you want the cold open to be, Adam?
I don't know. We just need to remember to play the jingle at the right time. Can you push the button?
Welcome to episode 119 of Arraycast. I'm your host, Connor, and today with us we have only the one remaining panelist. I guess that makes you a co-host, and we will do our brief introduction, so we'll throw it over to you, Adam.
I'm Adam Potsevsky. I do APL professionally at Dialog Limited. In fact, they call me the head of language design there, which is pretty exciting. But I'm interested in everything array languages.
And as always, I am your host, Connor, massive enthusiast of all array languages, and we're back. I think this is working. Honestly, there's no one that's put any comments in the chat, and the analytics haven't updated on the live stream. So I think we're live on YouTube, but time will tell when someone in the chat leaves a comment or the analytics start updating. How's it going, Adam?
It's good. It's good to be back. I'm happy that I'm still standing
Yes.
or sitting in this
It
case.
was well, yeah. We're still the podcast is still standing, and I think we had told listeners back at the beginning of November when we had our last episode that we were going to aim to be back. I think we were aiming start of 2026, and I think we said the latest hopefully was going to be late January. It turned out we were working quite hard. I know this is a little inside baseball for the listeners, but there was a lot of things that we had to get up and running. There was the domain, the YouTube channel, the brand new website that we're going to talk about at some point, the Blue Sky, and then I think there was one other thing. Oh yeah, we were transferring where the podcast was being hosted. So previously it was Squarespace. Now it's being hosted on a different platform. And anyways, all of that stuff, it took a little bit more time than we anticipated to transfer domains and whatnot, but we've got it all set up, we think. I mean, listeners will let us know.
There's some technicalities that need to be sorted out. There's some formatting on the website. Somebody mentioned, I think it was Marshall actually mentioned on the Array farm, APL farm, that we just broke all the links to episodes. Of course, since we moved to a different website, that means all links that are out there in the wild to all previous episodes are all broken. But we can fix this because we can reinstitute any URLs so that they will go to the right places.
Do you mean that previously on our old website, we were using like relative links or something like that no longer works on the GitHub pages hosted site?
No, I think it's just that if we previously, when we had an episode, then it went to like arraycast.com/episodes/ some episode name that was like episode 10 Eric Iverson, things like that, as like a URL slug type of thing. Now our structure is completely different. Now it uses like a date format. So now it's like arraycast.com/year/month/day/ and then some different way slugified title.
I see. So it's
So everything is just
incoming
different.
links that are trying to find previous
Yeah,
episodes now because we ported it to a completely
a whole
new
different structure. Yeah,
website. All right, that's good
which
feedback.
is fine. We'll fix this. We can fix it. It's
Yeah.
easy. We just need to create those files and do redirects to the new places, and everything will be fine.
Yeah.
So we'll get there. There are also other issues on the new website that we need to take care of, but we're getting there.
Mm-hmm. I mean, this is going to be a little bit of a different episode. Probably the elephant in the room that we should talk about first, which is evident for those that are watching us on YouTube right now, and is completely non-evident to those that are listening to us in the future on some podcast platform, is the format. We are now going to be in the future, not necessarily or almost definitely not on Saturdays, our respective local times, but we're going to try and maintain the bi-weekly recordings, probably roughly the same length as it was before, 60 to 90 minutes. But we are now going to be live streaming these on the Arraycast YouTube channel. And I don't think we actually have decided what time, what day of the week. Maybe that'll be a TBD, but expect that roughly 2 weeks from now, we will be announcing what the hopefully regularly recurring time. We're going to choose a day of the week and a time. And so if you want to, I imagine the majority of folks are still going to consume this on their respective podcast platform. But for the folks that do happen to be free and in a time zone that it works for, you can come. There's currently been no comments. Admittedly, when we took over this YouTube channel, it had 117 subscribers. I don't have a live count of what we're at, but since we've taken over, we've increased to 124, so we got 7 new subscribers. I was one of them. Sadly, I wasn't even subscribed to the Arraycast channel before. And anyway, so it might be just that. I think you have to be watching for 10 minutes or subscribe for 10 minutes or something, and we're only at the 6-minute mark. So maybe there's someone that's waiting, and they've got 4 more minutes until they can comment something. But if you'd like to interact, we probably are going to be monitoring the comments if folks want to interact while we're having conversations, whether it's just us or guests in the future. I'm not sure if there's anything you want to add to that, Adam.
Well, I can see the live count that says 10 watching now,
Yes.
of which I'm one of them in order to see the count. Oh, look at that. It
That's
says,
us.
have fun, guys. That's me. Oh, you write that.
Wait, I didn't write that. Did you write that?
No?
Have fun, guys? That was not you?
We've been hacked.
We've been hacked?
I don't know.
You seriously didn't type that?
I seriously didn't type that.
All right, well, that's concerning, folks. Either there's a...
Oh, it must be Bob.
Is it Bob? Bob's logged in.
What has to be? Yeah, because we took over this account from him, and so he has the credentials for this.
All right.
He's actually able to log in. Oh, we guessed it. See?
I see. So
we're chatting with ourselves here.
Technically not been hacked, but
No.
it is it is concerning that we had someone that was messaging. And there we go. We got Max as our first commenter saying spooky. Anyway, so yes, live on YouTube. Feel free to ask questions, leave comments, have a discussion, and
look at our faces.
Yes. And yeah,
maybe occasionally on screens.
We're going to try and aim for this to still be audio friendly, but at times we may bring up a REPL if it's convenient. Although we'll always be listening to feedback, because I know you always run the risk of getting caught up in not describing what's on the screen because you're, thinking about the question or the topic, and it's very easy to lose track or forget about the audio-only listener. Anyway, so we're going to be on YouTube, and I don't know, we should try to get to 1,000 viewers by the end of the year. I mean, usually I don't really say hit the subscribe button, leave a link, or a like. Yeah, clearly I don't do it often enough because I can't even say it correctly. But yeah, do all that stuff. And even if you're an audio-only listener, go find our channel. It'll be in the links of the show notes, and give us a subscription because I'm sure it helps other people discover it. Speaking of which, we've mentioned this a couple times. I don't have the list of things we have to chat about, but one of them is, as we've been setting up, we've also got a Blue Sky. That'll be where we're announcing stuff mainly. So if you have Blue Sky, go join it. I will say I like Blue Sky quite a bit. It has the smallest number of folks in my experience, but it's a pretty good platform. We're trying to figure out what is the official name, because we're inconsistent all over the place, of our podcast. Right now, the official title in the podcast viewers is The Space Array Space Cast. I have always thought of the name of the podcast, though, as Arraycast without the. And so, and also, too, I'm less hung up on the space, but I kind of like it without the space. And the nice thing is that if we change it to be officially Arraycast, we're going to show up higher in the podcast views, because it'll start, typically they sort podcasts alphabetically, and so we'll go from a T to an A. Anyway, so my question to you, Adam, what have you considered the official title of the podcast, and do you have thoughts and feelings about what going forward
Mm.
the official name should be?
I mean, okay, I have to start by saying that there are more important issues in the world than the exact spelling of the title of the podcast.
I didn't say there wasn't.
Um, no, so I thought that maybe it would be a problem to have two words, array cast, because if you try to search for that online, you might find like things about casting something to an array. I don't know, in some programming language, which
That's a
is
good
sort of
point as well.
what the joke is. Uh, but I just searched on like a neutral DuckDuckGo, so it's not looking at anything I'm interested in. It doesn't know who I am. And we rank first for both array cast in one word and array cast as two words. The second result, if you do it in two words, is from Microsoft Learn, enumerable.cast. And then the result number 5 is like C# cast entire array. So I guess it can happen, but it's not a huge concern. If you search for array cast in one word, then we do find us as the first result, and the second result is something called AR Raycast Manager from like the Unity engine. So I guess like augmented reality Raycast, but it's spelled, but the product itself is spelled ARRAYCAST. So it's one word anyway. So it doesn't really matter so much. I think these days, tech things are like often spelled with camel case, and so it sort of looks cool that way. That's how people write it, and so I have a little bit of a lean towards that.
Camel case meaning capital C and lowercase a?
No, it means that one word, where you take the multiple words and put them together to one word with initials of each word written with a capital letter.
So technically, camel case has a lowercase first letter, and it's Pascal case, I think, that has uppercase of each.
Okay, Bactrian camel case then. Okay, that's as opposed to dromedary case, because dromedaries have one hump and Bactrian camels have two humps, right?
Something like that.
It's what Microsoft uses, right? And their things as well.
They had like I think Hungarian notation. Is what Microsoft came up with, which was like the prefix letters that stood for the type and stuff like that. All right, so it does sound like we are leaning towards a raycast, one word with capital A, capital C. And the nice thing about this is that the domain is arraycast.com, which is what the Blue Sky handle is. So it's like arraycast.com.
Yeah.
And on top of that, the handle for the YouTube channel is Arraycast. So it's all just more consistent. And we shall be updating that stuff then. The next question on, while we are kind of refreshing to Arraycast 2.0, what is officially our logo? Because I thought that the logo on the APL wiki page for Arraycast, I didn't think that got used anywhere. So it's this little grid that is, white spaces with the diagonal as kind of like a baby blue or sky blue. And then I realized it is actually used, you pointed it out, it's used as the favicon or previously it was used as the favicon. Yeah. And I'm not actually sure. I think now the new favicon for the new website is just the Arraycast logo. And then on top of that, previously when Bob would upload the episodes, he would use this kind of brown mathy backdrop for the artwork of the episode, whereas previously he used the blue one. What do you think? I kind of have less strong opinions about this one. What do you think?
I mean, now that I said that the exact naming isn't so important, I sort of have to do this with the visual thing as well. I think it has to be recognizable. I think it's nice to have something that works well when it's small. I never really saw that bluish background with some of Aaron Stu's code or something in the background. I mean, not really. I don't know. Some of it doesn't look like it. Some of it does. Like maybe it's like put together various things, and then they have that. It has to be used as capital I as indexing thing. It's got to be Aaron Stu. Uh, and then the array cast in some very neutral sans serif font. I don't know if that's like Arial or something. And on top of that, I always thought of that as like not really the logo, more sort of like a banner thing. And that diagonal thing, I actually like it. Maybe it needs to be tuned up a little bit. It has some ugliness to it that definitely needs fixing. Because like it looks like it's not actually a grid. It looks like it's a bunch of boxes, some of them white, some of them baby blue, and they all have outlines that meet each other. So that's why you see like the internal lines are about twice as thick as the outer outline, and that looks weird to me if you really go into the details. But I sort of like it because dealing with arrays, right? Every programming language can deal, almost at least, can deal with lists. What sets array languages apart really is they're dealing with multidimensional arrays. And having something like a matrix, a table to symbolize that. And then it's obviously also a bit of a pun of like raycasting, like array cast. So having that diagonal going down, that's sort of like a ray that's going through the grid, which is the array. I think it's good, but I think it would be fixed up a bit. So maybe if we did like a new take on that, where we like change the relative weights between things, I think that could work.
And do we do it? Do we use it for anything? I've now you can't see this, and also I realized you couldn't hear the jingle when it was playing at the beginning, could you?
No, I couldn't. That's why I had this empty face while I was playing, and I didn't know should I say, "Oh, that sounded great."
Yeah.
Well done pushing the button, Connor, because I couldn't actually hear it.
And now I've realized that I can because I'm just screen sharing, that I can technically, without screen sharing with you, I can just hover. So now I've got in a small window the Arraycast APL wiki page and the logo showing.
I can see what you're sharing by looking on YouTube on the live stream.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true. And
Oh, new world here.
oh yeah.
So yeah, it's used there on the APL wiki. It used to be used as a favicon, and it works well as a favicon, I think.
Should we? And I guess that's another question. So, because we're kind of going through the items that we need to check off, the decisions we need to make for this new era of Arraycast 2.0. What are we going to be using for the artwork? Should we just use the new logo as the artwork, or do we because that's the other thing, is our logo doesn't say the name, which is very odd for a podcast logo, right? Like if you think about all of your podcasts that you listen to, if we were to use this as the new logo, like it's just it doesn't say anything about it being a podcast or a raycast, right?
But I don't see it. Okay, there's difference between a logo and like a logo type that has like a whole name on it. Look at it. If you scroll up a little bit, you see the APL Wiki. There's the APL Wiki logo, and then there's the APL Wiki name. And you can always put the logo next to the name. Lots of things does that. Microsoft's logo sort of doesn't say Microsoft in it, but they put the name Microsoft next to that windowy thing, whatever it is, flag window. Lots of things have, like, we look at YouTube's logo. Is that reddish, pinkish? It's now
Yeah, I mean, but
player thing, and then it has the name YouTube next to it.
YouTube's like a verb, though. Everybody knows about it. Arraycast doesn't have the privilege of not having to attach its name to. I mean, we can shoot for that as a goal, but I don't think we're there yet.
No, but we can just, when we use it in context where you need to have the name, like for the podcast logo, like that, we can just set up the icon with the name next to it.
That's true. But then what do you use as the image? Well, I guess that's when you're on the socials.
Then you make a giant, you make a square thing, whatever size it needs to be, and you put the giant icon on the top, and you write the name below it, so it has the same width as the icon. That's fine. And there will be some extra white space on the sides.
Okay,
we'll figure it out.
This is the plan, is to do this for the new artwork for the episodes as well, or just as a logo?
Yeah, we can put it there. I think that would be nice. Have something else than that blue thing.
Yeah.
Looks sort of too busy to be a logo. And then we can use just the icon itself of favicons. We'll use the logo with the name below it in some nice font that we need to choose which font we want to use for it. We'll figure that out. Or how about we make it a challenge to our listeners to send us to contact at arraycast.com. They'll send us in proposals for artwork that we'll then look at and decide. So they can like take it from APL Wiki and the Arraycast, and they can take that logo there as inspiration or not, and send us something. We'll have a look.
Yeah, if you are graphically inclined and want to, put forward a suggestion for a Raycast logo, whether it's inspired by this matrix or it's something totally different, definitely contact at arraycast.com. Max is saying, is Connor quiet or is it just me? It is definitely probably not just you. I probably started out fine. We got to fix Linux. Linux messes around with my settings, and it's irritating because now the level of my audio in my ears is incredibly loud. But I will also just speak into the mic a little bit more closely. And Brian is saying, I like that array logo on the APL Wiki. It's a lot nicer than the YouTube logo since it's just repeating the channel title. All right, so the pitch is out there. Contact at arraycast.com if you'd like to submit yours. We will figure out a new logo going forward, either like we discussed, inspired by this, or maybe something new if someone sends us something amazing, which means that we have talked about the format, we've talked about the logo, we've talked about the official title. The last thing was the description, but I think you've already put something in there, so we can leave that off, which means that it is now just time for us to catch up about everything that has been happening in the 3 months that has elapsed, unless if there's any other kind of janitorial items that you wanted to address before we catch up on what we've missed over the last 3 months.
Yeah, well, the same thing goes for our live watchers, listeners. They can, if there's something they want us to address, they can write that too in the chat. No, I think it's fine. Let's catch up. Though it's interesting. I looked at a Dialogue's website on, like, we have the States for Your Diary thing, and I looked at past events, what actually happened since December. And like, interestingly enough, maybe the first time it has happened in a long time, December is not even on there. Like, nothing happened in December. But in November, it mentions, of course, our previous podcast with the changes. And then it says that Dialogue version 20 was released. Which I'm super excited about. I'm still excited about that. Dialogue 20 is just awesome.
Yes, and
so
we
that's
had a whole
really the big
episode in not on this platform, but in early January, Tacit Talk, where we didn't chat about everything inside of Dialogue 20, but we did chat about a lot. So go find that. Links in the show notes if you haven't. Hopefully that was some content to tide over the Arraycast listeners that were struggling in the dearth, the lack of episodes. But yeah, if you haven't seen that, link will be in the show notes. But yes, keep going. So there was no December. Dialogue launched Dialogue V20 in November.
Yeah, and that's really it. And it mentions January, the Tacit Talk episode you just mentioned. So a lot of time has passed. I don't really feel like so much happened other than that huge thing that's version 20 for me personally. I moved to a new place.
Oh.
And I used to live in we could call it northeasternmost Denmark, although Denmark is sort of triangular with triangular. That's like the lower left part of a square, and the northeastern part is not there. That Sweden is there. But I used to live as far as northeast as you could get, and now I live pretty much in the southwest of Denmark. So it's very nice.
That's exciting. Was it a painful move? Moving is like one of my top 5 least favorite things, probably, that has to happen in life.
I don't like moving. I've moved many times, and it's never fun. It was definitely a hard move. This time, I've never moved with this much stuff, so much furniture and so on. We hired a huge truck and filled it all the way to the brim. There was like no space left. um, and it was painful. And we did it ourselves instead of hiring movers to do it. We just hired a driver for the truck. Um, I I started wearing. I just in time for the move. I started wearing a brace on my left wrist because it was hurting from things. And of course, doing the heavy move with, I don't know, 4 tons of stuff or something was not a good idea with a bad wrist.
That's not
And
a
at the
good
time,
combination.
I'd overexerted my right foot as well, so my Achilles heel on the right was also hurting. So yeah, it was painful move, but the result is very nice. We now live in a house for the first time, and we have our own garden, and it's not a quiet road. We have some good neighbors, and so it's very nice. And I've got my own office at the home. I don't know if you used to see that when we did our episodes. I used to sit in the bedroom, which might have had better acoustics because of all the soft stuff there. And
Yeah.
now I'm just in the spare room. But at least I'm on my own. I can lock the door. Like nobody's disturbing me in the middle of recording. So that's nice. Um, and that it changes a bit for me that I don't work at the office anymore. And now work from home. It's nice in some ways. Um, so personally, there's been some stuff like that. My daughter turned 3. She started in kindergarten. Uh,
Ooh.
my older children switched schools, and so lots of stuff there. And work-wise, yeah, we got 20 out the door, and we're beginning to think about, okay, so what are we going to do for 21? This will be very exciting. I'm actually going to England to meet up with people there at our headquarters tomorrow. Spending a week in England, and we're going to discuss some future plans. We have got exciting stuff coming, even though 20 was like, that's like Dialect 2.0 for me. Like it's completely changed everything the way I do things. Really, like my code looks nothing like it did before. It's a new language. But still, there's some exciting stuff coming up as well. We need to get our act together with certain things that we're sort of behind on. We need to have a good story to tell when people want to come and make real applications. Like how do you do dependencies, modules, imports, structuring your applications, um, working well with source code management, integration of those stuff into the IDE. That's also groundwork for a lot of reorganization of things that we want to do, moving things around, being a better citizen on the OS, installing things, putting things in the right locations. Lots of cleanup to do. So I don't know if I should. I'm not sure we're ready to reveal some of the things that might be coming. I guess it's not really. We don't really. We always speak about this inside of the dialect that we don't really have secrets. We don't. I mean, yes, our core program is closed source, and we don't reveal things about our customers that they don't give us permission to say. But really, whatever we're doing is not really secret. So something that might sound exciting is that our main Windows IDE is we're working on a dark mode for that,
Ooh.
which I've seen, and it's dark. So that's cool, even if it's just like a visual thing.
Mm-hmm.
Might allow people to make dark mode native Windows applications as well. Brian is writing in the chat, Dalek IME could be getting Git integration. I don't even know what that means. Oh, it probably means IDE, not IME. Because there's something called the Dalek IME. That's the input method editor, which I don't think makes any sense to do Git integration. But the Dalek IDE could get something Git, but I think more will do some integration with just having source code on disk and text files, and of course Git works well with that. So yeah, sort of indirectly. So there's cool stuff coming up that we're discussing internally. I have some projects internally at Dialog where we are thinking about renaming some primitives that have some unfortunate names, and we're thinking about what we're going to do for future primitives. So that's cool stuff as well. I've got so many ideas, but of course you want to hold the horses and take it easy and don't make mistakes, because once something becomes a primitive, then it has to stay like that. We can't change it forever. So lots of stuff happening there. There's some cool stuff happening with system things, some platform information integration stuff, and maybe some control structure stuff, and yeah, lots of stuff happening internally that we're working on.
Sounds like a lot to talk about in the future.
Yeah.
And
What
also,
about you?
well, I was going to say, I think are we planning on dedicating a future episode entirely to Dialogue V20? I mean, I think I have it on my list of things. I mean, we talked about it in Tacit Talk, but we didn't talk about everything, right? I mean, we didn't talk about Quad
No,
Shell.
this yeah.
So maybe, yeah, we'll put Dialogue V20. I mean, in the interim, go check out Tacit Talk. Go check out the documentation for V20. Go download it. But I think we'll yeah, it's a big enough release that we can dedicate a whole other Arraycast episode to it. Whether it's the next one, probably it'll be in the next 2 or 3. For myself, I mean, I feel like, yeah, the last 3 months has been pretty crazy. The day we recorded that episode, the last episode, 118, was, I think, 2 days before I left for my wedding. And then I was gone for like 3 weeks or 3.5 weeks for my wedding and honeymoon combined. And then I got back late November, and then December's always crazy. And then before you know it, it was January. And I think we had 3 separate meetings trying to like get the ball rolling and getting to this point. And I don't know, it felt like there was one time where like a week and a half had like slid by, and I thought it'd only been a couple, and I was like, holy smokes, like it's already the end of January. And the ball still was rolling, but anyways, so it's
slowly. Well, so congratulations to you.
Yes,
Getting
thank
married,
you,
that's a
you.
pretty big thing. It's a thing you really only want to do once.
I don't even. What did I do with my ring? I usually I don't keep it while I'm at my. Oh, I don't keep it.
Your wife might be listening to this. Don't tell her you
Well,
don't know
no,
where
she
your ring
knows that
is.
I was wearing it because I was just at a family birthday party thing. Hence why. Oh, there it is. It's under my cell phone. Here we go. I'll put it on.
Kind of
There's the
wearing
ring.
a ring.
But when I'm at my keyboard, I don't really wear it a lot, and because it's kind of irritating. But I do like it. Anyways, so yes.
How's married life? I mean, that's a pretty big change, isn't it?
It's the same.
It's the same.
Yeah. It is nice to be married, but yeah, daily life hasn't really changed that much.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, on the array language side, there's been a bunch of YouTube videos. I mean, I didn't move as recently as you, but I moved back in September, and similar to yourself, also acquired an office in the process. And I probably, part of the reason over the year to 2 years before that, I was releasing less content in the form of YouTube videos because I didn't have like a private space really to, sneak away and record a YouTube video. But now, ever since having this office, it's been a concerted effort to try and post a YouTube video weekly. So I think I haven't posted one this week, which people might get a preview of what this week's YouTube video is supposed to be on, because I've been ironing out and hardening the site that I built because people like Adam have been hacking it. And the good news is a buddy of mine, Bryce, co-host of ADSP, pointed out that how come I wasn't using Inscriptum, which is like a tool to get like a client JavaScript or WASM version of a C project. I could use that to get a client-side J version. And sure enough, that's exactly what J Playground does. It has a compiled WASM J version. And so I just borrowed the one that J Playground's using. But anyways, we'll get to that in a bit. But I did the ranking REPLs video a couple weeks ago. And the week before that, I think I did the...
You got some flack from me for doing that? Yeah.
Yes. We might even do, and I think that's a future episode, is a IDE deep dive or REPL deep dive where we talk about the pros and cons. It'll be like an expanded version of the ranking REPLs episode because, yeah, it's something that I think you and I are both very interested in and have a lot of thoughts about. And there was the state of array languages in 2026 video. You know what the funny thing is too with that video? I knew I had done one in the past, and I thought it was the year before, but I actually missed a year, and it was 2 years ago. And
Hmm.
anyway, so we'll be trying to we're going to try and do those on a regular basis going forward annually. And also too, there was two major mistakes in that video. I apologize to the WeWa community. I completely described sided subscripts incorrectly. So that isn't great. And then on top of that, there was another mistake. I think I said that the group in CAP was similar to the partition or partition enclosed in Dialog APL, and that is demonstrably false. The group in CAP is the same group that's in Tiny Apple, which were both inspired by the group in BQN, I believe. And hopefully that's not also demonstrably wrong, and I'm not getting this wrong twice in a row. But I do plan on making 2 follow-up videos, one for WeWa sided subscripts and one for group to clear that up. And yeah, so there's been a number
I
of
mean, you said that try well. Madeline says that it sounds correct, and she's the one that created Tiny APL. So
we
it's
hope that
gonna be.
she's the authority. So
You better know. You said that you bemoaned the state that that every online REPL used a different set of shifting keys for
oh yeah, that was a
recalling
mistake as
previous
well. Yeah.
things, which it might be the case for everyone but Triable, because every single combination that works on any of the other ones also work on Triable. It actually handles all of them.
Really?
So
I didn't realize
yeah, it
that.
does. It doesn't care if you use any shifting keys, as long as you just use up and down, it will work. So
This is
you
only
probably
if
just
you're in
tried
the
one,
input
and then
box, though, correct?
yes, that has to be. You can't, for other reasons, you can't do that in the main session. It can't, because you need the other key combinations for selecting text and jumping around and so on. It's a 2D thing. So you can't, up arrow has to go to the previous line, and
Right,
shift
right.
up has to select onto the previous line, and so on. Yeah. So, but yeah, I told the people at work that look, Connor has some criticism of TriAPL. Maybe we can try to work on this. So,
Yeah. It's got a
um,
couple missing features. No dark mode on TriAPL, no syntax highlighting.
that, or rather, Connor doesn't know how to read the documentation on TriAPL and how to get dark mode, because there's actually a
Is there a dark
keystroke for
mode?
that.
Well, yeah.
It says like in the help, I think.
As Adam says, I think. We're about to find out, folks.
Well, I'm going to go and look. It says right here in the help pane. That's where you go for help, right? On TriAPL, you go down to shortcut keys, and then it tells you the shortcut key to switch to black theme, if that's what you want. When it's right there.
Well, technically, I didn't rank. There was too many things I was trying to rank them on, and dark mode wasn't one of them. So luckily, I didn't make that
Well, you also
mistake in
said
the
there's
video.
no way to get rid of no way to use the keyboard to get rid of the pane on the left, which also says in the help how to do that. So, anyway, I'm not gonna hold you on this. Never mind. You'll come up with a video. you go through them again, and I think it's a great idea to look at the like deep dive into IDEs. Though, how many array languages actually have IDEs? Like real,
Do you mean like
desktop
standalone
IDEs?
ones, like
Yeah.
the one that ships with Dialog or Ride? I don't think any
The
of them do
J
they.
has one. Oh, J has
Oh yeah, yeah.
a
J
real
has one.
one.
J has
Like a
the
Qt
Qt
based
GUI or
one.
whatever they call it.
Yeah, something. Um, but I'm not sure any other ones really have. I mean, the other APLs have. Every APL almost has. I don't think new APL has, but I think that's the only APL that doesn't really have one. Any major APL that doesn't have. So APL Plus has APL 64, APL X, APL 2. And the Zyma APL has its own Android ID. So, but yeah, we can look at that, of course.
Yeah, we will have a deep dive in the future, and I'm probably forgetting some other stuff that has.
Oh, Weaver has apparently a REPL. Somebody said on the APL farm right now. Alex Schreier said that.
Does a REPL count
So,
as an IDE? Like, because then technically BQN ships with like a REPL that works um, in the terminal that has like syntax
yeah,
highlighting
so
and whatnot.
that's an interesting question. We can discuss that. I mean, where's Marshall when we need him to
Yeah, yeah, yeah. What
dump
counts?
things? It's like, no, just a terminal things.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I think of a REPL as sort of sort of like the command line you have in a OS shell. So it's a very simple. Yeah, maybe you can recall previous things and you can edit the current line, but it's basically just a line or multiple line in. You press enter and it executes that, and you go back to a prompt. And that's a REPL because that's what it means, right? Read, evaluate, print, loop, go over and over. Whereas an IDE, I think of is a whole environment, right? It's an integrated development environment. There you've got windows you can open to inspect things and edit things and look at the stack and get meta information and and, and so on. That's how I think of it, at least. Uh,
Yeah.
which is interesting because that means dialog doesn't have a REPL.
Well, I mean, doesn't it technically ship with the terminal based one?
That's an IDE. It's a terminal IDE, but still an IDE because you get into a full. It takes over completely the terminal. It's not like a line-based thing that slowly
Mm,
scrolls. You can go up and down, scroll. You can open windows and editors and things. That it has all that. It's just in text form. You can resize the windows and move them
I
around.
didn't realize that. That's why it's impossible for me to quit. I can never figure out how to. I just have to close the terminal
Exactly.
window.
It's all integrated.
And I know that there's some keyword, and I always go quit, close, exit, and I can never figure it out.
That's so funny. I did that when I was 12 years old, I think it was. I remember that because I'd used APL for a while, but that was the first time when my father just plopped me down in front of the computer and just like, okay, just roam free. And I did for a long time, and then I got tired of it, and I wanted to turn to well, I was at turn off APL. I wanted to to quit from APL, and I don't know why I couldn't remember how to do it. And I also tried all that. So I knew it was something close parent, something for system command, and I also tried exit and quit and end and all that. It's off, ran off. And that works in every APL system basically. But in dialog, you can also write quad off. Um, do you know why it's called off and not any of the normal words?
I do not
So you get a
know.
little bit of APL lore because APL is so old that um there was no real operating there was no operating system shell. There was barely an operating system. The operating system was really just a time scheduler for various things. So the way you do it, it was on a mainframe, and you log in to the mainframe from your terminal, and then you use it. And then when you're ready to log off, you log off using the off command.
I see.
Right? There's no, or you could say if it was a standalone computer, there were APL machines where it was just running APL, then you turn the computer off. Right?
Right.
You shut down APL, you don't go out to something else. It's just that's it, you're done.
There you go. Today I learned, folks.
Yeah, and
Hopefully today
Silas
you
says
learned as well.
you can start dialogue without the session enabled. Um, so you can so there's a way to do that. There's a way you can do like RL wrap on Linux. You can do this on Windows. You can't, or you can. I mean, you sort of can force it to do that anyway by running like I want like Sigwin or something starting dialogue without the session in the Sigwin window, and like it works for a little while and then it crashes because it doesn't expect you to do that.
Good to know. Good to know. If there's docs, we might put them in the show notes uh, if they link to that. And yeah, I think. Well, I mean, we'll save the further discussion of IDEs versus REPLs and the deep dives because we're gonna have a whole dedicated episode about that. Maybe we'll bring Marshall back as the bouncer that he was will be missed of where does the line get drawn. And because that's the thing, even though our former panelists, which there's a very nice part of the new website, if you go, it's still the same domain, arraycast.com, that shows current host slash panelists and then former, or what does it say? Past panelists, I believe. And
Yes.
it's got bios of all the past panelists and then also recurring panelists, which I believe is Rich and Nick Saris. And anyway, so that's all on the website. And just because they're past panelists doesn't mean they can't come on as, I don't know, what would they be? Guests? Returning panelists?
Panelist
emeritus or
Yeah,
something?
panelist
Maybe
emeritus, a returning panelist
coming for
emeritus,
a guest lecturer or something.
something like that. And we can definitely do that in the future. All right, is it time to give the listeners slash viewers of this video a sneak preview of what technically is live but hasn't been fully launched? Is it time to do that?
Yeah, go for it.
I mean, should we?
Sure.
I guess I will screen share. This might be a little bit messy for a second. How is the way to do this? Let's start a new window and I mean, a few people in the chat. I know Madeline knows about this and I know Max knows about it, but most people do not. So if we go this and show my screen anyways. All right,
They
folks.
can see the interface. Yeah.
Madeline in the chat saying, "No, you're about to reveal the only secret I was made part of." All right, folks.
Don't worry, Madeline. I also knew about it.
And technically, this is going to be exciting. I mean, hopefully, the server that is 13-year-old MacBook Pro that is downstairs doubling as my media center doesn't fall over because we've got metrics. Although, actually, wait, I'm only sharing that window, so you guys can't actually see this. Should I? Well, actually, maybe I'll reshare. But the point is, I have a dashboard that is going to show live metrics of people submitting evaluations. So if people are testing this out, we'll see what's the most popular language over the last 30 minutes. Anyways, this is a new website. It was teased in the last YouTube video, ranking REPLs, and it's pretty fantastic, folks. It's Arraybox.dev. You're the first to hear about it publicly. There will be a YouTube video on my other YouTube channel, Code Report, probably next week. And the idea is it's an all-in-one REPL for all 6 array languages at the moment. There might be more in the future. You can toggle through them by using Control up and down. So we've got Dialog APL, BQN, Weewa, J, Cap, and Tiny Apple. If you click on this, it'll show you the different languages and the different versions. I mean, technically, I think the J might be incorrect now. It might be 9.03. It's whatever J Playground's using. And it's what you would expect, I can evaluate expressions, and it's got a nice little feature where it kind of will convert, Obviously, this is not really going to work in a lot of cases, but for simple things, it does work. And the really nice thing about this is that it has built-in documentation to the nines. And so, first of all, I need to acknowledge all of the work that I did not do, and that all of the individuals, the creators of these languages, and the folks that contributed to the docs, it's all just scraped from their website. So this is all backed by a GitHub repo. There's a third-party licenses that acknowledges the sources of all this stuff. I am just creating a thin layer that exposes this in what I think is a very nice way to explore these languages. So, I mean, this feature is what Adam actually requested. If you hit F1 next to a primitive, it will automatically launch the docs for that primitive. Note that you've got ambivalence in a lot of these languages, so you're going to get 2 different definitions, the monadic and the dyadic one. But hopefully you'll be able to figure out the one that you're using. On top of that, though, at any point you can hit Control-K. And note that if we, hit F5, you'll see at the bottom, the first time you launch this, it gives you the keyboard shortcuts, Control-H for help and Control-K for the keyboard. So the help will launch all the shortcuts. We're not going to go through all of these right now, but there's quite a bit. And we can close this with Control-H or exit. But if you hit Control-K, it brings you to a keyboard layout. And we have these for all the languages, folks. So you can once again control up and down to cycle through these. And for the non-keyboard mapping languages, Weewa and J, Weewa because you do the prefix word completion, and J because you just have ASCII symbols. You just get a character set. You don't get the actual keyboard mappings. And a part of the motivation for this is that I am very Tiny Apple curious. There are all the primitives, and it was hard to explore the language with the REPL in its current form. But now I can explore it very easily. So there's a couple different ways. You can use arrow keys to just kind of toggle around this. And if you need to shift between definitions, you just hit the shift key. But then on top of that, say I'm looking for an outer product or a table, I'm going to have to zoom out a tiny bit, and let's make this full screen. And if I just start typing or I hit the letter S, it'll bring up the labels or the names of every single primitive. And so if I'm looking for outer product or table, it will, show me the ones that this corresponds to. And then I can see that they borrowed the glyph from Weewa. And if it gets down to 1, it'll just show the docs for that. But in that case, table was included in a couple of the different names. So you can just go to it and then bada bing, bada boom. And if you hit F1 at this point, it'll launch the full docs. And that's about it. It's not just a single line. You can do this, but you can also hit Shift Enter and grow this. It's got some really nice features like automatic alignment of assignment operators, automatic alignment of comments, things that I borrowed from other IDEs, and WeeWaPad, has this kind of thing. And I'm sure, like I said, there's a bunch of stuff that I might be forgetting, but that's about it. And thanks to Adam, thanks to Madeline, thanks to Max, thanks to Holden, thanks to a bunch of folks that kicked the tires on this technically this has been live since Tuesday morning, I want to say. And initially it was, they said Max was here. Max is Meme God, for those that are confused about that. And initially 3 of these were client side. So Tiny Apple and Weewa have Wasm, so you can basically get a version that runs in the browser. And BQN has the bqn.js, which I'm using. But initially, J, Dialog, and Cap are all on the server downstairs. Just this morning, I realized that we could do the Inscriptin trick and have a JWASM version. So now it's just down to Dialog and Cap. And I'm pretty sure Cap can be made client-side as well. So, because it's written in Kotlin with the multi-platform. Anyways, and so now the advantage of having these client sides is that I'm not exposing the Docker image that these things are running in downstairs, which Holden and Adam and also Bryce, he was kicking the tires on this, but he was just getting AI to do it because he doesn't know any of these languages. He's just like, hey, go hack this guy's server. And anyway, so now J secure. I think Dialog is mostly secure now. After the failure that was the initial security, I basically
That was lots of fun though.
It was lots of fun, and I mean technically Cap is the only. So it's only Cap and Dialog. But now I think Dialog is pretty safe. Cap is not, so you might be able to get access to some stuff via Cap. But like I said, if we can make that client side, it'll be safe. And both Holden and you, Adam, were making use of the quad sh or quad shell commands, and then also J has a shell command, and so you could mess around with only the contents of that container, or I guess if you're a really good hacker, you could try and get outside the container. I don't know if that's possible. But that's it. Arraybox.dev. Folks can't see this right now. It looks like I'm the only person that. Oh no, there's a few people that are typing stuff in, and I'll show this later. I'll show this after we're done mentioning about this. But yeah, it tracks metrics of which language is being used the most. Right now, it's Weewa with 12 expressions is in first place, and Dialog APL is in second, or technically tied in second with J and Tiny Apple. And I'm not sure if there's much else to say. Go take it for a spin. In the future, like I said, expect a YouTube video on my other channel announcing this, and it's been very fun. I mean, a few of the things that I've learned since doing this is that I actually prefer the one-indexed IOTA. And Tiny Apple has a function called range, which gives you the numbers, A to B. But unlike Cap, which doesn't give this a monadic definition, Tiny Apple does give this a monadic definition, which is a one-indexed iota, which you can't really tell because it didn't change. But if we do this and then we do this, there you go, folks. Monadic range is the resurrection of the one-indexed iota. We love it, folks. We love it. And, I mean, that's one of a couple things that I've learned. I'm also getting a lot more familiar with the train syntax in the Tiny Apple, which actually, it's honestly pretty nice. The jury's still out on is it the best train syntax. I like it better than Caps, that's for sure, because you can get longer trains with only the two moon characters. But anyways, go take it for a spin. And Arraybox.dev. That's just one of many projects coming out in the future. I've also started working on. I mean, this isn't array related, but if you go to podgod.ca, folks, it's actually. I mean, technically, I think I can go to that as well. Can I not? Podgod.ca. Well, it just flashed a little bit. Look at this, folks. It's beautiful. It's a filler word removal to start, but this is what the plan is for Arraycast is we're not really going to do any post-processing in the form of editing, We're releasing this on YouTube. We're going to bundle it up into an MP3, ship it, attach some show notes to it. We're trying to keep this, low effort. But Shima, my beautiful wife, my amazing wife, she's seen me vibe coding all this stuff, and I was whining about the state of Descript is a tool that you can use for like touching up podcasts and removing filler words. And then the platform that I use has this technology called Magic Mastering that supposedly should get rid of filler words as well. And both of them are awful. And so she was just like, well, it seems like you can make anything now. Like, why don't you just go make a version yourself? And I guess I had never really thought about that because the program that I use, Audacity, seems pretty involved. And like building your own mini podcast editor seems like a lot of work. And let me tell you, folks, it's a lot easier than you'd think. And now I have a beautiful filler word removal. I just said the word Hopefully that will not show up in the audio-only version when it's in the podcast. So we're working on this. We're working on Arraybox.dev, and we're also working on another very exciting project. We're not going to announce that one yet, but it was actually the ultimate goal was not Arraybox. Arraybox was merely a tool that is going to be used in my future project, which... it could be the biggest thing to happen to array languages since, I don't know what since Weewa? I don't know. Is there a newer language? Like, is Weewa the newest of the array languages? I think Tiny Apple is the newest. And that was something that I didn't realize that Tiny Apple actually was created within the last 2 years. And all of those blog posts were like a flurry of activity. It went from like, not existing to 0.1 version to, I think it's on 0.12 officially, but there's beta features that in unreleased. Anyways, that was a lot of talking from me. I'm going to pause. Let you add anything you'd like to add. I guess we can go back because we don't need to be showing PodGod. And thoughts, comments? And I haven't been keeping up with the chat. Someone was saying that I think there's no .show or .out, and that is because we're using bqn.js, so it's whatever's supported with that. But
yeah, but you have the same kind of limitation with the APL. You can't do like quad gets in the middle of an expression. Wait, Bob is saying?
Yeah.
Pretty cool. But
don't
you
worry,
have
we're revoking Bob's
yeah.
access so that it looks very. I'm always like, why are you messaging Adam? And it's like, oh right,
I'm not.
It's not Adam. Yeah,
there are also some issues with the APL thing that we can look at together. I noticed because basically you're using the same technology as TryAPL to keep things safe, but TryAPL is better at doing multi-line stuff than the Arraybox is at this point.
Yeah, I don't think.
I
mean, I haven't tested that at all, so that stuff should probably fail. It might work for some of them. I haven't tested it.
And I can't type a diamond either, so I'm not sure what to do about that.
Oh yeah, I mean, that was a problem for all of them. I think I fixed it for Tiny Apple, but probably it's not fixed for the others. I wonder if cap. Well, that's what you do. You just quickly switch to Tiny Apple, and then come back to APL. Does it work in cap? No, it doesn't work in cap either. So feel free to. You got this little report ladybug here. Looked better than the caterpillar, so we kept the ladybug. But we will fix that. Yes.
I mean, people can submit pull requests on it, can't they?
I mean, they can try. I'll be honest. I don't understand how this website's built. The AI's built it for me. I think one time I took a look at the source code because they were doing something I saw that I wasn't really happy with. So I was like, well, it works, but do it this way. But yeah, if people want to open pull requests, contributions are welcome, though. Yeah. What are folks saying in the chat?
Well, they're discussing the Quad IO with the merits of, especially like interval index. There's a big discussion how it should actually count. So if you want to do a little bit of like array language content actually here, so you can display it. I mean, you can show it in the Arraybox, right?
What is this? So they're talking about dyadic iota?
Dyadic iota underbar in APL, right? It's another symbol in BQN.
So look at that. I don't even...
So it looks up in the array on the left where the major cells of the array on the right would fit in. No, that's not really entirely true, but it looks, in a simple case where you've got two vectors, let's speak about that. It takes the elements on the right and looks in which interval they fit into the ascending left argument. So the question is, how do you number them? So if you're using Quad IO 1, then it's pretty obvious that you want to call the interval that's to the left of the leftmost element, left of the first element, before the first element is then interval 0, even though there's no IO 0 because the sort of before the first is 0. And then between the first element and second element is interval number 1, and so on. But if you're using Quad IO 0, then how do you do that? Then should you call the one before the first one -1? Or should you call that one number 0 and then number 1 is the one between the first two elements? That's the whole question. That's what it is.
Wait, so I haven't fully understand this. So give me an example. You said ascending left argument.
Okay.
So if I've got one,
so yes. Yeah, but maybe better to write 10, 20, 30 on the left.
All right,
that makes
10,
it easier.
I guess we actually have stranding.
Yeah, you have to do that.
Tiny apple. And then
and then on the right, you can write things like 5, 15, 25, and 35, or whatever. It's fine. Okay, so 5 belongs to the left of 10, right?
Right.
So that's interval number 0. Okay. Now, if you switch to BQN, I think I don't remember exactly. You can try. See if they do it.
And luckily, BQN uses...
Hold on. That's not... No, it doesn't translate correctly because it doesn't understand context. So it thinks that this is where and not interval index.
Yeah.
So you have to... I don't remember what the symbol is for interval index.
Oh, yes. This is a beautiful feature. So...
Oh, yeah. You didn't say that before.
I've got... like I said, I've got...
it's called...
Probably things I forgot. Don't worry. The polished video next week will mention all this stuff. But a couple of the REPLs have the ability to control
or something?
space. And
isn't that a grade up symbol from APL? I think it is.
Bins down.
Bins
so I was going to say, while you were describing this, it actually struck me as like histogram binning.
Yeah, that is what it is. So that's why it's called bins up. Anyway, so now if you do, okay, it also gives this. Now, if you switch then to APL.
Ooh, this is going to be unfortunate though, because I do not have number.
No, it doesn't
literals.
translate those things. No, but you could just change spaces to that thing. No, you don't want that. You want so the errors are not being handled correctly either, right? Okay, so this is all good, right? But notice they gave the same result, even though this is Quad IO 1.
Right.
See that? That's interesting, right? You should have been offset by 1. So if you insert a line, I don't know if does this work. Like insert a line at the front here.
What at the front?
Insert a new line. Yeah, and then set Quad IO gets 0. I don't know if this works.
Or it's Quad IO. And also, I apologize.
It's not. It doesn't. So you have to you have to diamondize it or something, or use a right. Actually, you can use a you can move it this quad arrow gets 0 to the end of after the 35 and use a left tack between them because clearly this isn't working well with multi-line stuff. Also, I have a feeling that you can do some. You want to do left tack there, not right tack. I mean, it still sort of shows it, but yeah. See now in quad arrow. So obviously in dialog where we are, in APL where we can switch the index origin, we have to abide by a rule that says the indices shift 1 when you change the quad IO. So I think this is the only sensible result it could give. We could have made internal index always return the index numbers from 0 and up, but it seems sort of weird that doesn't change.
Well, doesn't Tiny Apple have the extra arguments? So, like, do they have the same behavior?
Yeah, it does. I don't know. You can try it.
Well, now I got to go back and type I mean, technically, Max did request the feature of having array literals translate. And if I had have implemented that, then it would have worked. And I was going to say, I apologize if my typing, because right now I have the gain cranked on my mic in order to counteract Linux's messing around with my mic volume. So if the typing is very loud to the audio listener and the YouTube viewer, I apologize. So we've got this, and so I don't actually know how to type extra
like
arguments.
The underscored left. Oh, right. That's a feature that I'm missing. When you bring up the keyboard, then I can't click on the things to...
Oh, yeah. So this is never designed to be clickable. I guess maybe I should make it because it's like there's potentially upwards of like 6 things and it's kind of very hard to click on the right one. But I guess it just should be clickable.
How do you even know when there's 6 things? How do you know what you press? So sure, it's backtick and then what? Backtick 8? That would give you the different from backtick shift 8 gives you like
this is out of date. So it is backtick, double backtick, and then backtick shift and backtick shift. It's actually it's not as bad. My biggest complaint, Madeline, I know you're listening because I can see you commenting in the chat, is that I understand that on the keyboard, if we bring it back up, that you want to keep these lamp-like characters together, but the backtick shift, is that what it is for comments? Backtick shift C is very, it's so awkward compared to the backtick comma in dialog APL. So my plea would be to please make comments easier to type, because it is one of the more common things you type. Anyway, so I guess this is actually shifting it in the opposite direction. It's not shifting it. So
no, it does shift it up. No, it does, right? Because the point is, if it starts with 0 and then you add 1, right? Basically, switching to quad IO 1, that means you add 1 to all the indices that they would have been in quad IO 0. So it's giving the right result. It's just,
it's not the direction sort of, we were hoping for in order to see what they did.
No, it's sort of, it sort of makes sense. And it does make it. No, it doesn't really make it. I don't know. Yeah, it's a bit weird. I don't think it's very useful. Madeline is saying that she doesn't comment her code, so she doesn't need to type comment symbol. But she also agrees that that you're probably right. By the way, Max asked, or Mean God for those that don't know, asked, can Arraybox in theory be implemented with Jarvis, Dewey, my server? Well, that's different things, but it is actually using Jarvis. Connor might not know that because he didn't write it. The large language model wrote it.
I'm making use of Jarvis.
I suppose you must be running Jarvis on your machine because you're using. Oh, actually, I don't know. No, I don't know how you're using this. Oh no, you're using the same library as Triapil is using. But that doesn't mean you're using the same tech stack as Triapil is using. So if you just... No, I guess not. Okay. You could just run your local Triapil server and then use that. Or you could just offhand all the input to Triapil and just not worry about sandboxing it yourself. And that also means you don't have to worry about updates and stuff. We'll do that for you.
Yeah, maybe. I feel like I have it working now, so until it stops working, We're probably
I
making
mean,
the
it's not quite
changes.
working. Like if you, there's a lot of things that are not working.
Yeah, that's
Like
true.
your error message is all borked, and multi-line stuff doesn't work.
I mean,
It's on.
having the correct error message is, I could just pull a Madeline and say, I don't write, incorrect
You don't
code.
write
So,
errors. Yeah, okay. So, yeah.
but I mean, I probably should put like a beta on the website somewhere. This is gonna work a lot better in 2 months after people have found a bunch of issues and reported them. And there's also a bunch of stuff that I want to add that don't exist. Like I want multi-line editing and stuff like that. But anyway, so this is what people were talking about. I see Madeline in the chat saying the reasoning for my result of unmodified iota underbar is that the results are valid indices for an array. Parentheses, like you can index the result of bins into a string to get letter grades. End parentheses.
But you can't get the first element then, right? But then you have to do indexing also using IO1. So it sort of doesn't make. I don't see how you would use this. Like, why would you want to use the one based internal index if the whole language is just IO0, unless you want to put that modifier on everything? That's I don't know. I still don't know if I was to start over from scratch, sort of like BQN type thing. I still don't know if I would use quad 0 or quad 01.
Well, what is
I really don't know.
everyone seems to have decided that quad IO0, like everybody does it. J, Tiny Apple, Weewa, BQN. What is the argument? Because in general, I don't know. I feel like if you're not implementing the language, I'm sure it makes things easier if you're an implementer. But from a user point of view, like what's the argument for 0 indexing being better than 1 indexing?
There are quite a few like algorithms and things that are where 0-based indexing is nice. Where it bothers me the most, I think, is meaning sorry, I usually use index origin 1. That's policy dialog. That's what I'm personally comfortable with. But where I switch is if I need to use like encode and decode. So if I need to transfer an index from a one-dimensional space to two-dimensional space, for example, or the other way around, there using one-based indexing just doesn't work at all. Right? And it's interesting. It could work, but it would require encode and decode to also be index origin sensitive, which they're not, because they sort of serve this duality between number systems and index transformations. And in number systems, there's always sort of 0-based, but indices are not like that. So you have to just change your indices into 0-based indices and then do the transformations you need to do, and then you change and you add 1 again after that. So that's where it gets like anything like that, it's just annoying in quad 1. So then I set it to quad 0 for that function or whatever that does that. But there are other things where using one-based indexing is sort of nice. Some mathematical things, and I think for domain experts, people who are not programmers, non-computer science type people, I think counting from 1 is what feels most natural to them. In mathematics, both are really used, but notice this, that I think every like mathematically oriented programming language uses one-based indexing, or at least has the option to use one-based indexing, right? So Mathematica and MATLAB, they do that. And even things like Excel row numbers, they start at 1. If you ask somebody on the street to count for you, count to 10, right? How many people, when you ask them count to 10, how many people go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9? Right? To 10?
Nobody.
That's that, right?
It's also like it irritates me to no end that I 0 indexed ADSP. I didn't 0 index Tacit Talk. I did not make that mistake again. Because as fun as you think it is to be nerdy, like then you hit your 300th episode and you're like celebrating it, but really it's your 301st episode. But you're labeling it episode 300. And anyways, it just always irritates me now that technically the major milestone episodes that have episode 100, 200, 300, they're all technically not the milestone episode. It was the one before that had the number 299. And also too, when you say, oh, how many episodes, I usually just quote whatever the episode number is. Like we've had 272 episodes, but technically you've had 273. You're just at episode 272 because you zero indexing a lot of the time just doesn't make sense, folks.
The fact that you can that one-based indexing makes equal counting and
yes, yeah,
and enumeration, right? That's sort of nice. You got 10 when the last one is number 10. I remember when people celebrated the end of the second millennium at New Year's Eve, 1999, year 2000, and didn't realize that they were off by one, because 2000 years since the origin of that counting system, which never actually historically happened, but nevertheless, 2000 years had only passed at New Year's Eve 2001, right? Because if the first year is year 1 and the second year is year 2, then the 2000th year is year 2000, and the end of that year, the 2000th year has passed. And the third millennium in that counting system only begins on the 1st of January 2001. That doesn't sound so cool.
Yeah. Maybe we'll have to have a full episode on index origin, the index origin war. And that's why, here's an argument too. I said in the State of Array Languages video that Weewa might be becoming my favorite language. It might be surpassing BQN because it's got a lot of nice stuff. But I think really, the jury's still out, folks. But it is so nice that Tiny Apple has everything. There was a problem recently, I think 2 weeks ago. One of the Perl Weekly challenges was the Capricar problem, which is if you take a 4-digit number, whatever, 5,732, a Capricar iteration is sorting the digits in increasing and decreasing order, and then subtracting the smaller one from the larger one, and continuing to do that until you get to like 6,174. Apparently, it's just like a pattern that that algorithm gets you there. And so there is a function called the iteration step. That is, there's a bunch of ways you can do it. I think this is the format function, which it doesn't really show the quote, so it's hard to tell. But if you do this, then there is, I don't actually know how to type these, but there's sort up and sort down. And I think we're going to want sort down on the right. And I did that wrong. And technically, we need to put this in our train syntax. And we want to subtract these after evaluating them. And so I think this will work. And so if we just pair this for the moment, this is what you get. So, this is, I think, a great example of code that I want, because if we walk through the different languages, Dialog APL doesn't have the sorts yet. BQN.
I want to add that though, for the record.
Yeah, we want to add it, but just as today, February 7th, 2026, there's no sorts. Coming in a future Dialog 21, 22, 23, one of those, it'll probably be there. And something not dissimilar from these symbols here, probably the at least those are the ones that you lean towards. Anyway, so Dialog APL is missing these sorts. BQN doesn't have the eval and format functions. They have, the .bqn and the .format. Cap. I actually think cap does have all of this, but it's going to be, we should go to cap and see if this works. The sort up, if I can type, well, let's just go find it. So yeah, this is going to be sort up. This is going to be sort down. And then That's going to be, although if I recall, and so they don't have trains in cap. So, I mean, technically you're going to have to do what is it, V? Is it N?
Oh, you have to do like the fork things.
It's B and N. I don't know why that's not working. Oh, it's
So meanwhile, while you're figuring this out, Silas is asking why do we need to format and execute it? Because it's convenient, faster than it is to split.
We're golfing
digits,
here, folks.
but
We're golfing.
Yeah.
And so actually, this does work as well in cap minus 2 different glyphs. But the point being is that I love the fact that it's just, I don't know. I like I know that there's problems with eval and format, but I like it when all of the primitives that I'm reaching for are just there. And guess what? When you've got a language that's got 200 primitives, it's typically there. And if it's missing, you just got to let Madeline know, and she'll add it.
Okay, but pragmatically also, like if you working with a language that's got a ton of primitives, it becomes a bit of you have the learning curve to actually master the language, and it is very long. It may not be steep, but it's very long, and I've heard the excuse that if you don't know all of them, you don't have to use all of them. You just use the ones you know. But if you want to read somebody else's code, right, and they use some of the more obscure of the 200 something primitives, then you have to go look those up, familiarize with them. Having a limited vocabulary, a limited symbol set is a good thing.
I mean,
I'm not sure that
I don't disagree. But in my head, there's a little voice saying, I don't necessarily think 200's too many. But the louder voice in my head is saying, if you want to talk about learnability and readability, the ambivalence of primitives is like an order of magnitude or 2 orders of magnitude worse for readability and learnability than having too many primitives. I think a non-ambivalent language with twice as many primitives is much easier to learn and understand and read than a ambivalent language with overloading and half as many primitives.
It's an interesting discussion.
Also, you gotta come. Adam's got a new mic, and the mic's fantastic. But you got.
Oh yeah, sorry, I can't lean back. I can't lean back. I'm not allowed to do that anymore.
He gets very soft.
And so I think to a certain degree, there's a lot of things to say about this. I think the ambivalence helps when the primitives are actually very closely related. For example, I would want my dyadic minus to be subtraction and monadic minus to be negation.
Yes,
having 2 different glyphs for that is just that's just silly. No, but even things like monadic division sign is reciprocal. That's very nice. Monadic exponentiation uses natural base E, right? And the monadic logarithm symbol uses that natural base, so natural logarithm, right? Those kind of things, those are nice and helpful. The pairing up on the same symbol of functionalities that might both be good fits for the symbol, but are not otherwise related, that's much more questionable. There, might tend to agree with you. Although being able to type quickly on the keyboard because I don't have so many different combinations I need to be able to type is also a nice thing. So it's a balance. So interesting. We have comments here from another podcaster from the what's it called? It was called the.
I actually can't remember it either. This is Chris's fault because he hasn't released an episode recent enough.
It was for such a long time. I don't even remember the name of the
podcast. It's the Prague Lang Base is the YouTube channel.
Yeah, Prague Lang Cast. It's called.
Cast is the name of the podcast. Prague Lang.
You can't even type it correctly. No,
missing a couple characters.
Prague Lang Cast, the missing letters.
Yeah, Prague Lang Cast. I'm pretty sure, unless they rebranded.
Yeah,
they said frankly too many letters.
He agrees with both of us. Agrees that small number of primitives, but also agrees that non-ambivalence. And I also agree with that. I think it was a mistake in the APL, but it's way long time ago. It was made in the early 80s to to start overloading primitives with things that are not related. The problem comes in all kinds of places. It comes in documentation, grouping, like on the language bar or something like that. We want to group primitives by subject, but you can't if the same primitive symbol is used for two completely different things. So I think maybe the very first example of this was the tilde, which it's sort of nice that you use a symbol for not and not, or but not. Sorry, that's how I think of it. So tilde, the dyadic tilde was extended. What originally didn't have meaning in APL, it was extended to me a set difference, and you can think of set difference as everything on the left, but not the things on the right, which sort of fits nicely with the monadic meaning, which is Boolean negation. So not and but not. However, if you try to group your primitives, you want the set difference to be together with the other set primitives, like union and intersection and unique and things like that. And you want the Boolean negation to live together with other Boolean or whatever extended Boolean things like and or and nor. So where do you put it? Do you put it two different places? And then that problem just sort of grew further. I think that was a mistake to go there. Meme god that Max says unrelated overload started with the multiplication sign. Yeah, you could sort of excuse it with it. So monadic multiplication sign is the sign. Yeah, they're both arithmetic, as Madeline says, but also you could sort of say that there is a default left argument to that, because if you multiply a number by the absolute value of its reciprocal, then that's the sign, except for 0, whatever. Or at least if you define this reciprocal. Yeah, it's a stretch, but it's sort of, I mean, it's sort of nice. It's to have them together. It's not a huge problem, but you're right. It is sort of an overload like that. So of course you could probably always come up with something that would give the right result in some crazy conditional, like Madeline is saying. But then things got even worse when things were sort of okay until APL2, and then they still didn't have really technology for easily adding more glyphs, so they had overstrikes, and then they needed to conserve things. I guess they could. No, they did have overstrikes. They could have done larger character set, but then they did things like match, which is like the triple equal sign, right? Three lines equal sign, that's nice. That's a good symbol for that, sure. But using monadic form for that to measure the depth. Originally, it was just is simple type primitive, but then they made it into measuring the number of levels of enclosures, and that's also a nice symbol for it. It's like you can see 3 lines of each other. It's the depth. It's how many levels in the stack there. But the two things are not related at all. Right? There's nothing with comparison on one side and measuring nesting levels on the other side. Like there's nothing there. And the same thing went for operators. Right? Operators were also sort of overloaded from the beginning, right? Because you use the slashes to mean two completely different things in APL, and the dot for outer product and inner product they're related in a way theoretically, but syntactically it's sort of a mess. Then somebody decided to use the jot for functional composition, like in mathematics, which just totally overloaded the symbol. And then there were type overloading on operators. So like the power operator does two completely different things, whether you give it an array right operand or a function right operand. And then I said, okay, the ship has sailed on this. Like, so this is how we do it in APL. It's a bit of a unfortunate, but this is how it is. And so I pushed for the top operator, which you were happy about getting.
but the top operator uses the same symbol as the rank operator. They're not related at all, just differentiated by the right operand type. And I also propose to have a depth operator, still a proposal. But that would overload then, according to proposal, the over operator. They're not related either. Yeah. It's a balance. What I had to say, we also want to keep the number of different characters small. Look at the difficulty in typing certain East Asian languages compared to typing languages that use a very limited alphabet that can, or similar writing system that can fit on a single keyboard. That's nice. I think there's a problem in K. So K manages to condense the language down to almost single glyphs, ASCII glyphs that you have on your keyboard. But then it does type overloading so extreme that really you've got a ton of different primitives. They're related, sort of, sometimes, many of them. They can find clever names for them in English that sort of covers the whole thing. But then you have to remember all those different overloads. And I think that's more of an issue than remembering a few extra glyphs and the typing. But maybe it's just what I'm used to. The people that get used to it, they're fine with it. Just like the people who are used to writing Chinese, they're fine with writing Chinese and reading Chinese.
Yeah, to be clear, my issue isn't so much of baking two different meanings into the same glyph. It's more of a readability, right? Like if you don't have the context to interpret, and sometimes if you've got the name of the function or the thing, you can deduce which one it is, or maybe the context that you need is actually right there, so you can tell. But it's more that if and BQN has tried to address this, right, with the underscores. Well, I guess that's actually in the modifier land, not so much in the function land. But I guess you can tell when something is a function or an array. And anyway, so the point is not so much that like you bake two different glyphs, right? Like I don't have a problem with the number of primitives. It's more like from a readability point of view. When you're reading Weewa, it's just obvious. There's just one thing. You don't need to worry about the context, if it's there, if it's not. And yeah, so the number of concepts, and I also do agree, like having, like in Weewa, they've got the high minus, and then they've got like subtraction, then negation. Anyway, so I do think they have some, that is a problem, right? When you're not overloading, then you don't have the ability to use the same operation or the same symbol for minus and negation. But I don't know. What would I say? I'd say it more often it leans towards, not problematic, but like leans towards, this isn't really like, there's not a strong connection. Like even when you said reciprocal for division, like when I see a division symbol, I don't think, oh yeah, that would be also a great symbol for reciprocal. It's nice because it's kind of has the same behavior as like negation is the 0 minus and reciprocal is the 1 divide. Like it is nice. I do agree with that. But like when I see division and then find out that the monadic definition is reciprocal, I think, that's nice. That makes sense. But I don't like celebrate as like, oh, that's something that I really wanted or blah, blah, blah. It's just that we have dyadic definitions and monadic definitions, and there's a one that really fits there. Like that's nice. But I know that Weewa has reciprocal, but it doesn't like pain me that they weren't able to use the division symbol, right? I mean, I guess it's kind of like beauty is in the eye of the beholder, though, right? This is kind of now getting to subjective, what people feel.
There are a couple of primitives missing. They're there in Tiny APL, of course. But Roger Huey mentioned that there are two arithmetic functions that are missing, which is the one that is basically a plus I times b. So that's combining the parts of a complex number, right? You take the real part on the left and the imaginary part as a real number
on the right, and you combine it into a complex number. There's another one which is combining the phase and the magnitude of a complex number, which is a different way to state it. So they're sort of like plus and multiplication, because you multiply a direction with a magnitude, right? That gives you the full complex number. And so those are similar to minus and division, in that if you do them monadically, then you just get a unit of that size, right? So then it would be, instead of like for the plus type one, it would a plus I times b, then it's just I times b. And the same thing goes for the magnitude times the phase. So then you just do a unit length number of that direction. So there is a whole, what I'm trying to say here is there's a whole set of these primitives. You might say, oh, well, the only thing about division that makes it nice is because it mirrors what minus does. No, there are actually more of them. And there certainly could be 4 of those. But plus and times are a bit arbitrary, that they do conjugate and signum. Yeah. So, but maybe you think maybe it's not enough. I don't know. I think it's nice. Before dialect version 18 came out, I think, which had the monadic unequal sign as nupsive or Mark first, or whatever you want to call it. I had my dialogue extended, it was called, sort of a modeling language thing. And I had actually used monadic unequal sign to continue this idea of having default left arguments for all the scalar comparison functions. And there's something else you can notice with minus and division. That is that the identity element of subtraction, right? That is the number that the argument you can give subtraction that will leave the other argument unchanged is 0. That has to be on the right, of course. And the identity element for division is 1. Isn't that funny that that's the same number that is the default left argument? You never thought about that, did you?
Oh no, I'm not so much thought about it, but observed that for sure.
Okay, so but taking a sort of prototypical argument as the default left argument, I defined all the comparison functions monadically to take the prototype of the right argument as its left argument. Now, for numbers, this is easiest to describe. It would be 0, because the prototypical number is 0. So that means that you could use monadic equal to check whether something is 0. It's something that's fairly often done. Or you could do monadic unequal to check whether something is non-zero, which is actually a primitive that K has, that none of the other array languages have, I think. So its not function does not actually just flip 1 to 0, 0 to 1. It's actually, it takes any non-zero value and makes it 0, and takes 0 and makes into 1, if I remember right. That's how it works. So that's nice. And then that means that monadic less than is strictly positive function. And monadic less than or equal to is 0 or positive. Monadic greater than is strictly negative, and monadic greater than or equal to would be is 0 or negative, or you could say is non-positive. Right? So monadic less than or equal to, you call it, is non-negative, which is sort of nice. I like that, to have a single glyph to know this about numbers, sort of the properties of numbers that you can get like this.
And then I also added like the affine characters that you have in BQN and some other languages. You know that you can do arithmetic on numbers, on characters. And the prototypical character is the space, which is sort of really nice because ASCII and Unicode are ordered so that everything that precedes space is a control character of some sort, and everything that's after space, well, so we can see for ASCII at least, is a printable character. And space is sort of special in that it's sort of you could see it as a control character, that it moves the cursor one step to the right without printing anything, or you could see it as an actual printable character, even though you can't really see it. And so those same 6 functions, they would also answer this about it. So very often in text, you need to like split on spaces and things like that, and you could just omit the space in that case. So you know that idiom in APL where you do unequal partition, right, Tech?
Yep.
So that you could, but you need to put a space on the left to say what is the delimiter that you're splitting on. But here you could just stop giving it the space, because that would be the default thing that it splits on. So you can actually make it an ambivalent function. So you could save your train unequal partition right tech, and then if you want to split on spaces, you use it like that. If you want to split on something else, then you can give it whatever as left argument that you want to split on. And similarly, if you want to do partition enclose, you could use the equal signs. The equal would compare to equal means is space, and unequal means is non-space. And the less than symbol would mean is visible. Less than or equal to means is printable, meaning space or higher. Greater than means is control character, and greater than or equal to means is invisible. And so sort of like that. But this whole concept of doing things like that is only possible because of the monadic dyadic ambivalence. And I think the constraint of the language syntax in APL, of the monadic dyadic things, I think the fact that we have to slot everything into 1 or 2 arguments, where ideally the right argument is the data and the left argument is some kind of control thing, if that's relevant, that forced the language to become uniform. Having arbitrary arity on built-ins, like most programming languages have, that makes for a messy language, like, or easily make it the language messy, because oh yeah, we'll just throw another argument in there to control that. That's how you end up with these extended built-ins in languages where they take some main parameters, but then you want a little variation on it, so you just throw another flag parameter at the end, or an object that has all the options. It's sort of nice that everything is forced to like that.
I mean, there's definitely advantages. The question is, does it outweigh the disadvantages, which primarily are, I wouldn't even say, I mean, at what point does learnability start and end? Like, readability, it impacts for sure. Maybe learnability, it doesn't impact if you don't include learning how to read the code as a part of learning it. So I mean, yeah, I agree that like the advantages
readability is because of trains, right? They're really the ones where, well, there are 2 things: the train and identifiers, right? Because in explicit APL, without user-defined identifiers, it's immediately obvious whether you're using the monadic or dyadic form. So yes, you do have to remember both of them, but remembering both of them when they're a good fit for the glyph, even if they're not actually related, that's not really very hard, I think. But readability degrades when you're in a train and you lose track of monadic even and odd positions. You can't tell, and you can't tell whether it's a monadic or dyadic call anymore if it's a monadic applied train. Otherwise, everything is dyadic. And readability degrades when you've got lots of user-defined names that are in the middle of your expression, and you don't know if they're functions or if they're variables or operators, for that sake. Then you can't tell, right? Because the whole point, if you have something like A minus B, right? Is that negation or is it subtraction?
We don't know.
You don't know, because it depends on the type of A. But if you enforce a naming convention the way that BQN does it, and TinyAPL does it, where then there's no problem anymore. If it's a capital A, that means it's a function, and that means that the minus is monadic. And if it's a lowercase a, that means that it's a variable, an array, and a value, whatever, and that means that the minus is dyadic. That's not really very hard to read like that.
I mean, APL or dialog doesn't enforce that convention, though.
No, of course not. Of course not. I do, personally.
Yeah. But I mean, I don't think that the train thing is a small problem, because I mean, I remember with the first Minnowbrook that I was at, which was now 3 years ago in October, that I remember talking with Morten, Morten Kronberg, for the listener that is not up to date on all of the past Arraycast episodes. CTO, is CTO correct? Is the current position?
Yeah.
Of dialogue. And I think we came to the realization together that his not dislike, but he's not the biggest Tacit fan, I think that's a well-known fact, wasn't actually like trains. It was that when you combine trains and tacit programming with ambivalence, it then is like the hardest code to read, especially if you're just staring at a function in the abstract. A lot of times you only want like the monadic or the dyadic definition of that tacit function, but without some comment. And I remember at one point, either on a Tacit Talk or an Arraycast, I suggested, after learning that a few different APLs have, like, you know, the fat arrows for assignment, or I know BQN has it for exporting, CAP uses it just as their function definition. And I was like, well, what if you actually just had like assignment to a monadic function and assignment to a dyadic function? But that only works if you're defining a single function. As soon as you have an inline tacit expression, what do you do there? Do you have a new set of like parentheses? So it doesn't really work at scale. But the point being is that Morten, and I mean, he can correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm not actually sure if he actively listens to this, but he kind of realized that actually his problem wasn't so much with tacit programming and trains. It's that when you combine that with ambivalence, you don't really know what you have to guess at what are these functions supposed to be doing, because there is zero. That's the whole point of tacit programming. You don't have your arguments. You don't have context. It's implicit, and therefore you're always defining two different functions whether you realize it or not, and it's problematic. So, like I said, pros and cons. And as someone who, you know, loves tacit programming and is constantly trying to basically only do that, it's a big problem. And I actually, you know, I as a user of these languages, I'm not necessarily against a language that has this. I just think about what is the ideal language, and potentially that language is a non-ambivalent, like it doesn't have ambivalence.
Well, you've got Jelly, right? Jelly is fully tacit and non-ambivalent.
That's definitely not the ideal language, though, because nobody can read that, and even I built a tool.
Why? Why is that, Connor?
Why is that? Because they're, well, we always got to take a step back as soon as the array language folks start saying that we can't read something, because it's a little bit rich. But why do I say that that's not readable? Because I think this is a true statement, but you can give your thoughts. I think that the mnemonic nature of the choice of symbols or letters in Jelly are not as good as compared to the mnemonic nature of glyphs and APLs, meaning that like sometimes there is a pattern, there's a rhyme and a reason, you know, like I think half is one of the H's, and then double is like half over dot or under dot. Like there is a rhyme or reason, but like it's not fantastic. And
Okay, so would you say that Jelly would? So the reason for that, by the way, is to avoid the keyboarding issue. So all the symbols in Jelly are directly writable with the U.S. International Keyboard, which is just like a slight modification on the normal U.S. keyboard, and it's broadly available in the world. You don't have to like install something special for that. But do you think then that if we rejigged Jelly with new symbols that were better, it would become readable?
yes, yes.
So
Although, arguably, some of the primitives in Jelly would not be in my ideal language because they are for the sole purpose of golfing. So they're just looking for the most common sub-expression. So is it something you actually need a primitive for? Arguably not. But I do think that a symbolic version of Jelly with a reduced set of primitives would be more readable. Well, I mean, we're getting into the whole philosophy of is what is readability at the end of the day. You know, it's familiarity and understanding. So really, if you took the time to learn how to read Jelly, I'm sure you would be able to. But I think, yeah, a symbolic version of Jelly would be an easier language to learn to read, especially due to the fact that most of our brains are hardwired to see letters next to each other as like forming words. So if you just happen to spell some word that like has some
no, most of our Western brains, maybe.
Yes, Western
right?
brains. My bias as a Canadian, having lived in Canada for the majority of his life. Yes, Western brains are used to this. And
Well, what if the brothers Greek speakers to or readers that there are Greek letters in APL that are not letters, right?
yeah.
But Madeline mentioned fixed APL or fixable, I don't know. Which is actually interesting. That might become your next favorite language. I haven't looked at it for a long time. It seems like it's come
I
far.
have never even heard of it, Madeline.
So
maybe we'll do a future episode on fix APL.
So it calls itself a simple APL derivative built on fixed arity functions, and it seems to take some clues from Weaver. I mean that's what it says. That it's inspired by APL and BQN and Weaver.
So it's a newer language then.
Yeah, maybe that should be considered the newest array language. Then I'm pretty sure.
Right.
It says like within the last year it's been developed, so we'll have to have a look at that separately. But maybe
future, if not a whole future episode, at least expect it to be talked about.
Maybe we should interview at some point the author, Jacob Lockwood. It says, and it's available online as an online repo as well.
So. That name is familiar now that you're saying it out loud. I feel like I have interacted in some form on some platform at some point in the past, maybe. Anyways, we're at or go ahead.
No, I was just saying, Madeline. I'm just catching up with the chat here. Madeline's mentioned also a while back already doing the opposite, functions in lowercase and arrays in uppercase. That's actually what we do in the documentation for dialogue, and that's what my father did as well. Based on the German system, that verbs are written in lowercase and nouns are written with uppercase. So the real natural languages that do that. Danish used to do that too until after World War II, when they were very anti-German sentiment for good reason, and they got rid of that German system. And Duan says, what if the IDE or colored the glyphs differently depending on whether it's interpreted as dyadic or monadic? Yeah, well, that's good. But how do you know if it's interpreted monadic or dyadic? Right? Dialog IDE can't really easily do that. In something like BQN, you can, because BQN can be statically analyzed. But in dialogue, if you don't know what the types of the names are, then you don't know in advance. The IDE really doesn't know itself whether things are monadic or dyadic until runtime. My classic crazy example of that is where actually I can show that. I should show it a fun little thing.
Sure, we got time. I mean,
I can use the Arraybox. Maybe I'll see if it works. It might not work, but we'll try it. See if it works. So I'll share my screen here.
and while Adam is, I was going to mention this at the end, but we're winding down now, and Adam's getting this set up. We are not only available on all platforms, podcast platforms, but even ones that we weren't available on previously. We had a listener one time that asked how come he couldn't find us on Amazon Music. I know it's not the most popular platform out there, but we are now hosted there and should be hosted everywhere. And on top of that, the previous platform that we were using, Squarespace to host, had a limit on like the number of episodes that they were showing in the RSS feed. So it was only 100. So episodes 1 to 18 might have been missed if you were going back. We have fixed that in the process of porting to the new platform. So if at any point you missed the first couple episodes, they should all be there now. And going forward, we shall have them all forever. All right, over to you now, Adam.
Okay, so I'll take this step by step. See if this will work. So here's plus as a character, and here's 2 as a character. Right? All good.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm now going to index into this with a random number. Right? So if I run this, we got the character 2, and here we got the plus, and we got the 2, and we got a 2 again, and a plus. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Good. Now, hopefully this will work. Now I do execute on this. Okay, so this might give some weird errors. Okay, so this gave us the plus function, and this gave us the number 2, which you can't really tell the difference when they're printed, but that's what it will give. Okay, all good. Now I put this in parentheses, and I put 1 and 3 next to them. So if this inner thing gives us the plus function, the result will be 4. And if this inner thing gives us a number 2, then the result will be a vector of 3 elements, 1, 2, 3. Right? So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, number 4, 1, 2, 3, right? So firstly, there would be nothing really for the ID to color here, but if anything, like this parenthesis, if you want, right, you would want to color that. But okay, so now we take this a step further, and we write just like this, right? So this gives either 2, 3, or it gives plus. Right? So sorry, yeah, plus 3 is just 3. Sorry, sometimes it will give us 2, 3. Great. Okay, now we'll write a minus over here. Right, so now what happens? If this gives 2, it's 2 minus 3 is negative 1. And if it gives plus, in its complex conjugate of negative 3, it's just negative 3. So we'll get 2 minus 3, negative 1, and negative 3. Okay, so can you tell me what color should the IDE color this minus? Monetic color or dyadic color? Or do you want it to sit there blinking between the 2 colors because it doesn't know?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not the one that suggested it, and admittedly, it is, I think, unfortunate. It is nice if you go Control K and then go to Weewa, you'll notice that there's actually an extra color in the Weewa character set because they have a difference between monadic and dyadic functions.
Yeah, but that's because it's fixed arity.
Yeah. So there's blue and green is monadic and dyadic, and then yellow and pink are the modifiers. But it's the only one that has this color scheme. All the other languages, blue is for functions, and green and yellow are for the 1 and 2 modifiers. And it is sad that you don't get as rich color in your expressions because you can't delineate between the difference. But in that case, I mean, you could have some kind of thing where you'd need even 3 colors. You'd need for unable to tell, and then only for the ones that are obvious or easy to compute for whatever I don't have a language server.
Yeah, there is I mean, yes, you could do this. You could do some analysis, and you could, if you did a full analysis of all the code and all the variables as they are now, you could sort of deduct it. Duanis has a good point as well. Look at it after the event, like after you run it. Just remember at that point when it was last run, was it used magnetically dialectically? It's very likely in any sane code base, you're not gonna write things like this that has that has variable arity. And if we, I mean, there are other ways you can end up in a situation like this. Like potentially, if we did a multi-line thing, you could like if condition. So for the condition, we'll just do this, right, for craziness, and you say like x gets minus, else x gets 2, and then we do, you know, x plus 3, right? So here again, we don't know what x is going to be, but this is crazy. Don't write code like this. And so if the system fails to color this because you're writing code like this, yeah, don't. It's just, unless you're doing some really, really weird things, you wouldn't want to do that. But it might say like, okay, that said, it is fairly common in APL to write this or similar things. I don't know how to write the diamond. We'll write it like this. Yeah, never mind the errors. I don't care about that. So here, let's say I wanted to write a cover function for plus, right? So then I would write alpha plus omega here. Right? And here alpha has an ambiguous type, which means you don't know if this plus is monadic dyadic. So it actually can happen even in sane code. So it's not. It's so
you
even
keep talking as if I'm here. I'm gonna be back in 30
yeah.
seconds
I'll
to
just
let
put
my
on you
wife
here.
in.
So Madeline is commenting that this is just mostly a consequence of XQ being incredibly crazy. No, actually, you can see here that there are other things that could end you up in this kind of situation. There's the problem that colors aren't very accessible. Yeah, but you could show other ways. You don't want to do underlines, but you could do like bolds and italics and or other kind of little dots and indications and things. But there, I mean, even the other things you might not be able to tell exactly the class. There's something called kind coloring, which is some thing in the defense workspace, I think. And that does some analysis, and it actually occasionally colors things red. So I think if we go to like defense.dialog.com depth, yeah, here. So this is interesting. So this I don't never really looked into how this works, but the defense website actually uses some syntax coloring and formatting. So notice the italics here. So it does analysis of the code, and it has determined that this is a dyadic operator. It determines that because it has the omega here. It determines the what names are and what class names are. But the red thing here, can you figure out why that's red? Red here means I couldn't figure out what the syntactic class of this name is. Can you see why? And I submitted this definition, and which isn't a good one, by the way. So I later came up with a much better definition of this, but it's fine for this example. And John Scholes, who was the custodian of this, he wrote back to me, say, hey, if you modify the code like this and this, it's like technically not necessary, but that would make the system able to figure out what the correct arity is. Not arity, so correct class, syntactic classes. But I said, no, why would I? I don't need to cater to this to the computer. It's good enough for me. So we left it like that. So Madeline has the answer, by the way. It could be a train. So this is the right operand. And the right operand for the depth operator is a number. That's or multiple numbers, which is the depth that we want to apply a function at. But let's say you gave the operator a function right operand. Then we've got function number here, which technically speaking is not a valid train. So you should be able to derive from that that's impossible, but the syntax analyzer here was not able to do that. But that's the problem. Because it could be a function here, then we don't know whether this is a tacit expression or whether it's an explicit expression, and therefore we don't know the type of depth. It could be a function or an invalid function, actually it wouldn't even parse. It would just error immediately, or it could be an array. That's why I couldn't figure it out. So no, the coloring doesn't check that the arrays. It doesn't go in and look at the actual syntax here. Apparently, it could have. Right? It could be improved. But even then, like let's say the formula here was different and it didn't have a 3 here. It could have been anything. Then it really couldn't figure it out. So you can't always tell.
Yeah, Max in the chat is saying that in practice that's really not an issue, and he programmed an APL for his work. And I also now, upon reflecting, I think it would irritate me if your coloring would change depending on like analysis of what it like. I would rather just consistently color everything blue, I think, than have like a potential color for known monadic and known dyadic and then like unknown, because I don't know. I feel like that would. I don't know. I maybe I'd have to play around with it to be certain, but it is an interesting idea at least, if not anything else.
Max says the problem is type overloading on variables in the. I think the problem here is type overloading on names. Right? We can't tell based on what things are. Maybe that's what he means by variables, right? The variables, the names, the identifiers can refer to various things. We can't tell, but if you use like the BQN system or a tiny APL system, something like that, then you would be able to. I don't know. Maybe it would be nice. Maybe it would be nice, like for trains, if you would color the carriages of the train. Never mind if they're monetic dyadic. I can figure that out. But wouldn't it be nice if it used like the functions that are applied to the arguments would be one color, and the intervening functions that combine those results from those outer functions would be another color. That might be nice. I don't know. I think Morten Kronberg just prefers generally very little coloring. So he says it doesn't really help him much. I like having some syntax coloring.
It didn't give you joy using Arraybox, seeing those colors. It gives me so much joy when I'm on Arraybox, and it's
well, this is light blue and this is white.
Well, admittedly, we haven't finished the syntax, but when you're dealing with functions, and you can just go Control K and see what everything's colored, right?
We've got numbers. We've got strings.
Didn't you know that I borrowed the string coloring? So that's directly from RIDE. That if you have an incomplete string, it's red. But then once it's that's nice. I think RIDE is the only one that does that. Admittedly, in BQN pad, it will typically autocomplete your paired quotations.
No, the Windows ID also
delivering does. Me cake. This is the risks of. Because I left the birthday party before the cake was handed out.
Oh no!
Looks like it's got some custard in the middle, folks. I'm not sure if folks were paying attention. I'm also was drinking a uh-oh. The video is paused due to network issues. I was drinking a. What? Where's my camera?
Look at that. I can see the camera.
A non-alcoholic.
Are you drinking IOTA? It literally has the name of an APL primitives on it.
It's the IOTA Hazy IPA, folks. I'll be honest, I don't even actually like this that much, but it's got IOTA on the name of it, so we always keep some in our fridge behind us. And anyways, I'm not going to eat this cake right now because we should probably not be eating while we podcast live on YouTube.
If I'm too boring for you, then yeah, go ahead. Here's that dialog version 20 and in the Windows IDE, and you can see that my strings are red if they are unfinished.
Yeah, it's quite nice. Quite nice feature.
That works that works as well. Another thing I like is the strong coloring of invalid tokens. That's very nice. Sometimes you get like a non-breaking space that sneaks in, and you can't tell the difference between that and a normal space. But if you leave it unquoted, they will tell you that is bad. So yeah, that's some things that I really appreciate, the coloring. But I don't really think that it generally does so much. One thing I used to do, I don't really do it anymore because I just use the standard color schemes, is that I color the background of strings. Because like if you got a long text, then yeah, sure, the color, but I think it's nice to see it as like a block. One thing that might be nice, especially because of APLs not having a symbol for the stranding, would be to color the whole array. So you've got an array literal. It'd be nice to like color that with some box or background to say that this is one array.
That'd be nice, yeah. Or at least for the space non-stranded languages.
Yeah. Also things are adjacent, right? It could even be like this, right? There is no space here, but this is one array if A is. So we're back to the type problem.
Right.
So I think syntax coloring can do some things that are nice. That's a nice thing in that's actually a very useful thing. I'll show that. We'll move this over. So dialog has these traditional functions, and unfortunately, they default to variables being global. And if you want them to be local, you have to explicitly localize them in the header on a header line. So you can see here that the local variable has like a gray color, and the global variable is black. And that is useful. That's somewhere where I think syntax coloring really helps me. That if I see there's a black name, I'm like, okay, I forgot to localize it.
Right.
Of course, it would be nice if the functions were actually the other way around, and they would by default be local. But that's a historical issue, and maybe we'll do something about that one day. It's an idea we have. And as Madeline's writing, it's almost always a mistake to have global names, but is it really? Yes, it might sound like it for variables, but what about function names? You could have local function names, and you can have global function names. Right? var1 doesn't have to be an actual variable, right? It could be some function, right? And this could be some global function that I'm applying. So array names and function names, different colors? No, because you don't know the type. Then you have to go and analyze everything, and it might not be there yet. Maybe you're using the name of a function that hasn't been imported yet, that will be imported at call time. We don't know.
All right, we should start to wind this down because we're at one point we were at 123, and I was like, oh, it's actually not too bad. The next time I looked, it was at 153, and I was like, oh, that last half hour flew by, and now we're at 2 hours and 12 minutes, and we're running the risk of this turning. You know that we could probably go for like 4 hours.
We can go forever. Yeah, I'll stop sharing. We can take this discussion up another time. Yeah. There are all kinds of considerations. Of course, like having to work with backwards compatibility and all the crazy stuff that you can do. Maybe something's better than nothing. It's possible. Maybe Aaron Su's big project about static analysis of APL will turn into something like this. That could be cool.
It could be. Although I thought you were going to say something about Aaron, and I was like, that guy uses Notepad to code his APL. He doesn't want any syntax highlighting.
No, but he doesn't really need either. Remember, if you're using no names, right, then you really don't have a problem. If you know all the primitives in APL by heart, and you don't use any identifiers, or you use a strict naming scheme, or you just know all your names and what they do, then there's no problem.
Right. Yeah. Depends on how you use the language, and everyone's got their different preferences. But
so
as we wind down, you should either subscribe to us on YouTube and hit the notification bell, because that is, if you're going to be watching us live, the best way to know when the next episode. We will have some regular recurring time we pick in the future. It hasn't been picked yet, though, so we can't tell you, in a week and a half from now on a Tuesday morning or something like that. We don't know. But if you subscribe on YouTube, we will, post hopefully like a week in advance the upcoming, live stream link. And if you're not going to be watching to us on YouTube, then just follow us on the podcast platform. And we're also on Blue Sky. We can also be reached at contact@arraycast.com. We will be monitoring between Adam and myself that if you want to drop us an email. I think we might be potentially setting up GitHub issues. Actually, we'll TBD on that one because we don't actually know if that's going to be the case. And there was one last thing I was going to say. Oh, yes. We didn't address this at any point, but some of you may have noticed. We did mention it. It's only 2 of us at the moment, just Adam and I. And the plan is, for the next few episodes at least, is it's just going to be the 2 of us, similar to when we started Arraycast for the first time. We had, I think it was, 6 episodes or something, where it was just we didn't have guests. Guests will be coming back. And also, too, we haven't made any official decisions, but we do plan to potentially, in some form or fashion, grow the Arraycast team. So it's just not Adam and I for the rest of the time. But, stay tuned for future announcements on that stuff because, the goal was to get the Arraycast back up and running. It is back. It is up. It is running. And then we're going to sort that stuff out down the road. So we're hoping to do this once every 2 weeks. So if it's not, I know, Adam, you're in England next week. So if it's not the week after that, expect it to be the week after that. So within, 2.5 weeks from now. Anything you want to say?
I'm coming home before the weekend, and I'm all good. And 2 weeks from now will be a week after I come home from England, so it's fine.
Yeah, perfect. All right. I mean, the last thing to say then, can we synchronize this? We used to have Bob edit this in post. Now, how do we non-post edit synchronize? Do we have to do like a 3, 2, 1 countdown, or how do we do this?
I think it feels like the connection is really good. There's very little latency. So I think we can just try to go for it.
All right. Well, we have to start at the same time then. So do we just like open our mouths and then?
Yeah, I think so.
All right. With that, we say happy array programming.
Happy array programming.
See, it totally wasn't synced. Was it synced for
you? It was for me.
Oh.
We have to ask the listeners.
Yeah, I know. Well, because I know, but we're live streaming my setup, right? So it's technically, even if it sounds synced for you, the listeners are hearing what I'm hearing. True. Anyways, you got a little bit of...
we have to test this to see what the delay is, and then I have to say it a little bit before you. Not synced. We failed. Oh, well. Connor, next time.
It was great to get this back up and running, and we'll chat next time. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.